Today on Investigate TV Plus, America's population is rapidly aging, and that growth could put a strain on long-term care facilities. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. We take an in-depth look at a possible solution that brings the elderly and children together under one roof and explore the benefits for both.
Plus, an active mother of three, like so many of us, writing off her stomach problems as no big deal.
I thought, I kind of have some cramping, a little bit of bleeding, and I thought that I was just exercising too hard.
But a colonoscopy would confirm her worst fear. We examine the rise in colon cancer cases in young adults and the signs you should not ignore.
And she was more than $60,000 in the hole and on the brink of bankruptcy.
Stuff hit the fan, and I was on this hamster wheel with credit card debt.
The sacrifices and side hustles that helped her dig out of debt and how they could help you get out of the red.
In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus. Let's face it, we're all getting older, and there could come a time where you or a loved one may not be able to live alone.
Finding the right living arrangement for older adults can be a struggle, and some experts say how we look at housing for our aging population needs to change.
One potential solution involves bringing the elderly and the young together under one roof. Reporter Kristen Crowley takes us inside an intergenerational center.
Inside this senior living facility, you'll see what you might expect. There's a dining hall, quiet places to read, a peaceful garden, and programs like this morning exercise class.
Push out.
But if you stick around for a moment, you'll also see the unexpected.
Good morning, good morning.
And you'll hear it too.
Who's going to make the train sound?
Well, it's kind of the highlight of the day because they give back so much to us.
At Showalter Villa, just outside Wichita, Kansas, seniors and children come together under one roof. It's called an intergenerational center, where children attend daycare and seniors live in a traditional nursing home setting. It's one of the only ones in the state.
It lets us be together without the obstacle of being in different buildings.
Jill Moore is the life enrichment coordinator here. She plans the activities between the seniors called Grand Friends, who live at the villa, and the children who go to daycare at Heston Child Development Center.
It's one building, but it's two separate entities.
It's two separate companies.
But they share the same goal.
March.
Getting these groups together to interact, from working out to playing games.
9, 10, 11, throw.
It was just an idea that I had for many years, that there is many benefits to be gained for both children and the adults if we could bring them together.
Former director Judy Friesen helped get the program off the ground here roughly 15 years ago. Since she retired, Jill's helped to keep it going.
What kind of impact does this have, having children and seniors under one roof?
You see that it creates joy in people. To have generations be together is like real life. And one of the things that we're always taught is you don't want to feel like you're living in an institution.
It gives you a feeling of, different feeling if you are talking or seeing some children rather than some old people.
And that's exactly the idea behind centers like these.
We really believe that it is the way of the future.
Donna Butts is the executive director at Generations United, a leading advocate for intergenerational care centers. Butts says research is clear about the benefits of combining young and old in one building.
Older adults who are around younger children, they have more of a sense of optimism. They have a tendency to take better care of themselves, to score better on memory tests.
As we age, isolation and loneliness become major health risks. Researchers say they lead to increased risks of dementia, depression, and anxiety.
My wife died March 1 of 2009.
As close family and friends die or move away.
How many grandchildren do you have?
10.
Do you get to see them?
Very seldom.
Loneliness can be hard to avoid.
Well, I would certainly like to see my grandchildren more than I do. but I no longer have a car, or I guess I don't even have a driver's license. I don't know. So that's life, I guess.
Being a grandfriend helps fill the void.
When I think about it, I think I'm really fortunate. I would like to be close to my family, but this is second best.
They just give us new energy and reasons to smile.
Do you have a lot of grandfriends?
Yep.
And it's not just a benefit to the elderly either.
How many grandfriends do you have? That many?
Or this many.
Researchers say children who attend intergenerational centers show more empathy and even improve academically. But says nationwide, while interest is growing, there are roughly only 200 of these facilities. That can be for a myriad of reasons, from financial to physical. Many nursing homes don't have the room to add daycares or the money to build additions. Nebraska is trying to incentivize their growth. Lawmakers recently passed a bill to create more intergenerational centers by offering nursing or assisted living homes up to $100,000 to add on daycares. And these advocates believe in time and with more awareness, what's now unexpected will become the norm.
Both ends of the spectrum are so much alike in so many ways, you know. One is just beginning, but their abilities oftentimes match some of the abilities of the seniors, where their abilities are decreasing as they get older.
Bringing together people who are not so different.
It's like a vitamin for the soul.
But who make a huge difference in each other.
Generations United has a list of existing intergenerational centers on its website. It says 85% of people surveyed are interested in this kind of living setup for either themselves or a loved one. However, only 26% said they had something like that in their community.
Another form of intergenerational living is called a reverse boomerang. It's when baby boomer parents move in with their grown children because they haven't saved enough for retirement.
Aside from just the relationship change that's going to take place, you got to make sure that you're not going to pinch yourself or set yourself up for a sticky situation down the road. Start to build a budget, maybe even get some contracts written up to say, here's how we're going to share expenses, here's who's responsible for X, Y, and Z.
In many of these situations, there's a huge financial benefit, including childcare and sharing food costs.
Still to come, digging out. Millions of Americans are crumbling under the weight of credit card debt. We show you how one woman got a fresh financial start.
But first, a 40-year-old mom of 3 went from training for a marathon to fighting for her life. We examine the rise of colon cancer cases in young adults and the importance of talking to your doctor about a sometimes touchy topic.
It's something that can be tough and even a little embarrassing to talk about, but an honest discussion about your bathroom habits could be life-saving.
That's because cancer of the colon and rectum now ranks as the leading cause of cancer-related death among men aged 20 to 49 in the United States. For women, it's second, only behind breast cancer.
In North Carolina, a mother in the prime of her life put off a colonoscopy for 6 months after experiencing something she initially wrote off as stomach problems. Christy Williams is a busy mom of 3.
They are 15, 13, and 10. Our evenings are like just bananas, as you might expect with like 3 kids.
Amid the chaos of running a household, Christy found the time to train and run a marathon.
I love to exercise.
During her rigorous training, Christy experienced stomach discomfort, but she didn't think it was a big deal.
I thought, kind of have some cramping, a little bit of bleeding, and I thought that I was just exercising too hard.
Christy's husband urged her to see a doctor, who then recommended Christy go for a colonoscopy. She had just celebrated her 40th birthday and was 5 years younger than the recommended age for regular colonoscopies when she had what would become a life-changing procedure.
So I go in, have the colonoscopy, and immediately after, the physician says, we found a tumor and you have colon cancer.
Unfortunately, Christy is part of an alarming trend involving younger people in the United States. A 2017 study published by the Journal of the National Cancer Institute found millennials, people born between 1981 and 1996, have twice the risk of colorectal cancer compared to those born in 1950. The experts we spoke to also said that the same age group is more likely to be diagnosed with late-stage disease than older adults, which makes the odds of surviving more challenging. When Christy was diagnosed, the cancer had spread to her liver, making it stage 4.
The 5-year survival rate at the time was only 5%.
In Kansas City, a doctor who did not treat Christy is on a mission to improve a young person's odds of surviving a colon cancer diagnosis. He says it starts by getting comfortable with what many consider to be uncomfortable.
We have often grown up being instructed what happens in the bathroom stays in the bathroom, and we like to keep things in the bathroom there.
Dr. Francis Daly says it's a myth to think colon cancer only happens in older adults. He urges people in their 20s and 30s, and even college students, to be honest with their doctors.
And it's important to talk about any changes to our bowel movements because those may need an investigation with a colonoscopy to look for colon cancer.
A change in bowel habits is just one of the 4 key symptoms seen in people under 50. Other symptoms include abdominal pain, rectal bleeding, and iron deficiency anemia. Doctors say it's important to recognize the warning signs and to not delay medical treatment.
You can find precancerous growths called polyps and actually remove them at the time of finding them, thus preventing colon cancer developing in the first place.
After her colonoscopy, Christy spent the next year undergoing surgeries, chemotherapy, countless doctor's appointments, and targeted therapy to treat her cancer. There were days when she said she found herself crying on the bathroom floor, and other times she found humor in the treatment side effects.
There were times where I couldn't even talk. I had so many mouth sores. I had this terrible rash on my face from the target therapy, and we would just say, hey, if this is what I look like, imagine what it's doing inside my body and killing all those cancer cells.
On February 20th, 2020, Christy finally got to ring the bell, marking the end of her treatment. She's been cancer-free ever since. And as someone who put off colonoscopy twice before her diagnosis, she now advocates for prevention.
Colon cancer is one of the most avoidable types of cancers just by getting the screening. Get it done.
Christy admitted prepping the day before her colonoscopy was difficult, but she says the peace of mind you'll get after the procedure is worth the night you spend near your bathroom. Dr. Daly adds the procedure itself only takes about 15 minutes, and the patient will enjoy a short nap during it.
Her husband is not your typical EMT.
I don't think about age. I think about what we're able to do and how well we're able to do it.
Still to come, why he was inspired to head back into the field when most people his age are enjoying their retirement. But first, does the thought of your credit card bill make you cringe? A woman in Arizona owed more than $60,000 when she decided to make a change. Her plan for financial recovery and how it could help you get out of debt. Our in-depth coverage continues. You can get connected to InvestigateTV Plus on all social media platforms.
If you're like most Americans, consumer experts say you owe nearly $8,000 in credit card debt. But if you're just paying the monthly minimum, it could take decades to pay off your card.
Yeah, despite persistent inflation, there are ways to dig out of that financial hole. Consumer reporter Susan Campbell shows us how an Arizona woman paid off more than $60,000 in debt in less than 5 years.
Joni Kataw's getting ready to move, walking into a new life without the credit card debt she carried for years.
Stuff hit the fan, and I was on this hamster wheel with credit card debt. My interest rates were through the roof, and I couldn't keep going.
How much debt are we actually talking about?
I had $53,000 in credit card debt.
She also owed some taxes. There was student loan debt and a car payment. It all added up to more than $60,000.
It was almost as much as my salary was at the time.
Had you ever had a budget before?
No, I was really good at burying my head in the sand when it came to my finances.
Joni was desperate. One of her credit card companies recommended the nonprofit Money Management International.
They renegotiated my interest rates on all of my credit card debt. One of my cards went from 29% interest to 0.
A 29% interest rate may sound high, but it's becoming more common. According to a LendingTree analysis, the average interest rate on a new credit card is 24.66%.
We're seeing a lot of consumers that have a lot of debt issues right now. The interest rates specifically are really causing consumers harm.
Jim Triggs, the president of Money Management International, says high interest rates can trap people in debt for years.
Understand what you owe, understand what your interest rates are. If you can make more payments to your credit cards than the minimum payments, then do so. High interest debt you want to pay off as fast as possible, so have a plan to pay it all off.
Joni's path to pay off involved a lot of sacrifice. She got a side gig delivering food and stuck to a strict budget.
The budgeting was definitely an adjustment. I'd given myself like a $20 a week allowance for frivolous stuff, for fun stuff, you know.
That's not much.
It's not much.
But so worth it. Joni paid off her debt early, in just 4 years.
So I was able to avoid bankruptcy. Thank goodness.
To tackle your debt, experts say first create a budget, then find ways to cut expenses.
MMI suggests focusing on easy wins first. Those are the little things, like canceling subscriptions you don't need anymore. After that, move on to the big wins. The costliest monthly expenses are typically food, housing, and transportation, so find ways to reduce those costs too. It's also important to review your plan regularly.
For more information on how you can fix your credit, head to consumer.ftc.gov and type Fixing Credit in the search bar. He was inspired to go back to work.
I just enjoy this type of work because I enjoy helping people.
When he should be enjoying retirement. Up next, we introduce you to the 79-year-old coming to the rescue of community members in need.
I'm Viv Williams with a medical myth moment. The myth, eating honey can decrease symptoms of hay fever. That would be great, but it's not true. Dr. Jerry Volchek, a Mayo Clinic allergy specialist, explains.
When honey is made, there are pollens that are in the honey, and a lot of people think that the pollens that are in the honey can kind of work as an immunotherapy or desensitization then to the allergens that are in the region.
Volchek says in theory this would make sense.
But unfortunately, the amount of pollen that's actually in the honey isn't enough to make that happen.
Also, he says that the type of pollens in the honey are not usually the ones that cause allergies. With this medical mythbuster moment, I'm Viv Williams.
Earlier, we talked about the challenges of getting older. Some people may slow down as they age, but others, like Ed Diaz, are hitting their stride in their golden years.
Reporter Joe Carroll shows us how Ed is using training he received in his 20s to help save lives in his 70s.
Like so many rescue squads in Vermont,
This is where I am most of the time.
Wallingford relies on volunteers to fill the ranks. And at 79, Ed Diaz is the oldest to go out on calls.
We basically use an CPR. I just enjoy this type of work because I enjoy helping people.
Just before the pandemic, Ed approached Eric Davenport about joining Wallingford Rescue.
First reaction was he was very interested.
And he said, asked me how old I was and all that.
But I will admit, I kind of went, if he was 20 years younger, that would be great.
Me too.
But I'll unlatch that and pull it out until it hooks.
I think I finally impressed upon him that I was serious.
Very serious.
And Ed is no token member. Since October 1st, the start of their fiscal year, of the 242 calls they've had, Ed's been on 197 of them.
In 2019, it was just 150 calls. Now they also cover East Wallingford, when that rescue squad dissolved, says Greg Ricketts.
We get a lot of calls with the elderly in this area. We do get some drug-related calls, but it's not as much as the other areas.
Ricketts says they could use a few more people like Ed.
It's routine to me now.
The super senior medical training goes back to his native California.
This is me right here.
In the 60s, he was a Navy corpsman, similar to an Army medic. After a stint in the Navy, Ed became an ambulance driver.
I said, this is the skinny little guy that I met in 1967 out in Palo Alto, California.
That's where he met a nurse and his future wife, Trudy, a native Vermonter.
But I missed the change of season terribly, and I transplanted him back here.
They raised a family, and Ed had various jobs in the Green Mountains. It was when a neighbor needed medical care and rescue showed up that Ed's memories of helping people came back.
We lift it up.
Did that pique your interest?
Absolutely.
Negative.
I had no problem with it at all.
Were you concerned about his age?
No. I don't think about age. I think about what we're able to do and how well we're able to do it.
The biggest gratification I get when a patient that I've dealt with or a relative walks up to me and personally thanks me, for help. I'm getting a little teary here, but that tells me I'm doing a good job and it's well worth what I'm doing.
Now that would close. I'll probably just keep going until I can't do it anymore, whatever that age is. The good Lord will tell me when I need to stop.
I always say age is overrated, and he's proving that. It's really, like she said, his wife, what you can do, basically.
If you're able, why not?
Yeah.
Just keep on going.
And he is giving back.
Yes. Well, that's it for us on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. Thanks for watching.
On the next Investigate TV Plus, more and more teens who want to protect themselves turn to guns.
Somehow it got flipped that guns are powerful, more powerful than talking, more powerful than being free.
We examine a possible solution giving at-risk kids a chance to break a violent cycle.